So this is us on a very rainy day just outside of Oxford, Alabama, the Talladega National Forest. We're going to go check out the Cheaha Falls. I was going to go climb to the highest peak in Alabama, but it is rainy and quite foggy. And if you get to the peak, you're not going to see anything. So leaving the car, crossing a ditch and a road, look both ways. We're on our way. I figure if you're not going to be able to see anything at the peak, and I still wanted to get a hike in, I was prepared for the rain. What a better time to go see a waterfall. So let's go see it and try not to drown in the process. We'll talk a little Louisville football. It's the bye week. Cardinals 2-0. Dominating, able to cruise type wins in their first two games. Austin Peay, Jacksonville State, Jack State. Which is, I'm in Oxford, just outside of Oxford in the Talladega National Forest for this Let's Hike with Michael McCammon. Jacksonville State's just right up the road. Jacksonville State had a member of its coaching staff out looking at kids on the Oxford football team last night. And the rain gets a little bit harder. So what do we like about Louisville football so far? Could you tell much through those two games? Something that you can certainly tell. Tyler Shuck can sling the ball. Saw it in spring, saw it in fall camp. We've seen it through his first two games as the Louisville Cardinal. Only played the first half against Austin Peay. Makes great throws at all three levels. Calm in the pocket. Great leadership. That's certainly something that was obvious through those first two games. The depth of the defense is also obvious. That's been something that's been talked about throughout fall camp. And we've seen it through the first two games, again, against lesser competition. So the final judgment is still a long way to being made, but the experience that they've added at layers, first team, second team, third team, that's an obvious. Speaking of defense, another obvious is Tramel Logan, the transfer from South Florida, arrived late at fall camp. Can't tell. And if he's shaking off the rust because he arrived late at fall camp, then a lot of good things to come from that defensive lineman. Great compliment to All-American Ashton Gelati, that's for sure. Another thing that's obvious when it comes to the passing game is Louisville's got a deep group of wide receivers. Even more so with the late addition of Amari Huggins-Bruce, transferring back from South Carolina. Tyler Shuck spreading the ball around. A lot of guys getting the ball. Corey Brooks, obviously a great receiver. His favorite target thus far. Really looking forward to seeing how he does as competition increases. Up next, Georgia Tech, as Louisville begins its ACC play. Another obvious is that it is tough to slow down a legit dual threat quarterback. And Louisville faced one against Jacksonville State, and that defense was reminded of that. The attention to detail, the focus on the small things, you know, all that coach speak. They were reminded of that as Jacksonville State's quarterback ran for, what, 101 yards? 103 maybe against the Cardinals. So They gave them hopefully a little bit of a blueprint on what to prepare for with Georgia Tech coming in. And their dual threat quarterback, Haynes King, who's averaging, I think, just over 6 yards per carry. A little wet. Kind of reminds me of the Louisville Florida State game. Overtime victory. Tear down the goalposts. People storming the field. Nothing wrong with a little rain, right? Here's another kind of no duh obvious fan support. 2 games, FCS opponent, noon kick, the Conference USA, and it's not the Conference USA that we remember. Conference USA opponent, Jacksonville State, new to the FBS level. 40,000 plus. Great tailgating. Card marches have been packed. Really looking forward to seeing what the environment's like as things continue to step up, including September 21st. When the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets come in to face the Cardinals. I like my hat. Should we get to the report card? Offensively, quarterback play, you got to give him an A. Tyler Shuck has just been slinging the ball around. The biggest concern, or not the biggest, but one of the main concerns with this Louisville team is its quarterback depth. Hopefully that is something that we'll not have to worry about, as Tyler Shuck can stay healthy all season long. Harrison Bailey has come in a couple times. We saw Pierce Clarkson, and there's others on the depth chart. I do think the talent is there. I do believe the talent is there, that they are just continuing to develop as well. But again, hopefully Tyler Shuck stays healthy all season long, and no need to have that backup tested. Running game. At this point through 2 games, to me, that was one of the biggest concerns coming into the season. I liked how Chris Barkley, and I've said this multiple times, called it prove it time for this running back room. And so far, they have. Freshman Isaac Brown has emerged. The guy has great speed. There was buzz on him throughout fall camp, so really not too surprising. Of course, going to see how the freshman does, as well as Duke Watson, who's been running really well through 2 games, how both of them do once the team now gets into ACC play. And we see that competition jump up quite a bit. But Maurice Turner, really impressed with what he's done so far. Little bummed that we haven't seen more of Donald Chaney. Had a high ankle sprain, so he left after getting his first touchdown as a Cardinal against Jacksonville State. Keywan Brown has surprised. Didn't get to see much of him in fall camp, but figured that he would get an opportunity, and he's been taking advantage of that opportunity thus far. So the running back room, to this point, based on the concerns going in, I have to give him an A+. These grades can fluctuate. Let's hope they don't. Take advantage of the overhang. Get out of the rain for a moment. You know who probably doesn't like playing in the rain? Wide receivers. Through 2 games, also impressed with Louisville wide receivers. They've been bolstered by the really late arrival of Amari Huggins-Bruce, transferring back from South Carolina. We're going to see his reps continue to increase as he gets more in tune and in rhythm, in rotation, and getting his timing down with Tyler Shuck. But the wide receiver group as a whole, again, another positive. And again, I keep feeling like I need to put an asterisk next to all these because, as we know, the competition level was not great. I shouldn't have to keep repeating it, so I'll try not to. But Tyler Shuck's favorite target, Ja'Cory Brooks, very impressive, the transfer from Alabama, but spreading it around to a lot of guys. Chris Bell has made a couple tough catches. Like how the tight ends are getting involved. We'll get to the tight ends in a minute, though. But Jaden Thompson looked good in fall camp. Now he's getting an opportunity, and he's doing pretty good with the opportunity. He's gotten a couple touchdowns, he's got receptions in both games thus far. Would like to see him maybe catch a few more. But overall, wide receivers, let's give them a B+ for the Louisville wide receivers. And I think that's a grade that's going to continue to climb, especially if Colin Lacing can come back in the next few weeks. Fingers crossed. The offensive line, a lot of rotation there as well. Giving up a couple sacks. But overall, I'm going to give them a B. And I think that's a grade that's going up as well. I don't think they've been overly tested. Hard to kind of judge them too much on how well they'll be able to maintain the pocket as competition goes up. Not that I'm overly concerned about it as well, but a solid B for the offensive line as well. Let's get to the tight ends. Mark Redmond. He just likes catching touchdowns, averaging 1 per game. Showing great hands, great route running. We've seen Jamari Johnson with a couple catches, Nate Kariski, Isaiah Cummings, Jaleel Skinner. They're all getting involved. I think that's a number that we're going to continue to see increase as well in the passing game, is the tight end opportunities, especially as defenses become tougher once ACC play continues following Georgia Tech. Defensive line, I bet I look great. But right here, this is worth it. Got no crowds. I got this place to myself. The rain's adding to the ambiance of it all. It's filling up making the falls a little more boisterous. I got no complaints. Defensive line. Deep, deep, and really deep. Jamel Logan, a great addition. Great compliment to Ashton Gelati. They've rotated quite a bit. A lot of guys have seen snaps in those first 2 games, which I think is going to prove vital as the season continues to progress. I think right now the defensive line has kind of done what they were supposed to do. They struggled against the running quarterback against Jacksonville State, so we're going to give them a solid B as well for the defensive line. The linebackers, obviously a huge strength when you have your leading tackler from a year ago returning. They do, and TJ Quinn, he has been solid. Stanquan Clark has elevated his game. Really impressed by Antonio Watts. Ben Perry's been making plays. De'Riante Davis. The depth, not as deep as the other spots, but certainly much improved from last year. They've been solid through the 2 games. I won't mention the asterisk. I'm going to give them as well a solid B. So we got B's for the defensive line and the linebackers. Secondary. Got beat a couple times. We heard Jeff Brom talk about them getting beat a couple times in scrimmages. That's going to have to tighten up, but you got to love seeing Quincy Riley get his first interception in game 2. Hopefully that continues a trend. Tamari McDonald getting involved in the backfield, the offensive backfield, getting a couple sacks. But really, it's a group that I think is going to continue to prove as a strength for this Louisville defense throughout the 2024 season. I'm going to also give them a B at this point as well. So overall, the defense with a B. Overall, the offense, I'm going to give them an A. The Cardinals had their bye week. They did excellent during the bye week. Up next, Georgia Tech, ACC play. Things are starting to get serious. We'll readdress this report card following the Cardinals and the Yellow Jackets. making my journey out. Again, I appreciate you guys hanging out and hope you enjoyed the discussion and the scenery here in the Talladega National Forest. The Cheaha Falls Trail, which is just outside of Cheaha Falls State Park, 30 minutes outside of Oxford, Alabama, where Louisville quarterback commit Mason Mims plays, and is the reason why I'm down here. More on his performance and continued recruiting process at Cardinal Authority. Make sure to check that out. But yeah, thank you for going hiking with Michael McCammon. I'm about a half mile from my car. I've got a bottle of water waiting for me. Nice cold Dr. Pepper as well. I'm going to put on some dry clothes and make my way back to the Ville.